Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm back again with part two of my video series on the Twilight Zone and the episodes that best reflect each uh, holiday. In my first video, I went all the way from New Year's up to Mother's Day, so now I'm going to be talking about some other episodes that best exemplify the themes of different holidays. My first So the first holiday I'm going to be talking about in this video is going to be Memorial Day, which people have come to associate with barbecues in the start of summer, but is actually supposed to be about um, our veterans who soldiers who never made it back, the ones who were killed in action, and there's several Twilight Zone episodes that could be reflected uh, on these themes. Because war was a prevailing element of the Twilight Zone and several war-themed episodes. Uh, and there was one episode in particular from the first season. It was called the Purple Testament, and it's about a soldier who's able to predict when his fellow soldiers are going to die, because he can see this purple haze or glow around them, and then sure enough, they wound up being killed soon after. And it's a haunting episode and definitely point very poignant, and really reflects and shows the horrors of war as he has this as he has this weight on him over what he's about to see. So it's can definitely highlight about some awful things, and can definitely remind us that this holiday is not about barbecues and nice weather. So as we go on into June, we would have uh, is Father's Day. So there's one episode in particular that is especially relevant for Father's Day. It was the first episode of the fifth season, called "In Praise of Pip." It stars Jack Klugman, one of four episodes he starred in. He was in, along with Burgess Meredith, he starred in the most Twilight Zone episodes of anybody. And he plays this man who's a bookie, and his son is often fighting in Vietnam. It was actually, I believe, the first ever mention of Vietnam in uh, like a network television scripted show. So it's definitely a little part of TV history there. Um, But Jack Klugman's character finds out that his son was shot and is fighting for his life over in Vietnam, and he fight and it causes a lot of pain and despair, and he goes to this old amusement park that he always took his son to as a kid, and as he's walking around, he finds his son there, still as a little boy. And he wonders, why is his son a little boy again? And they go around the whole amusement park, and it's a very sweet, poignant episode, and um, really depicts the love between a father and his son. So it's especially relevant for Father's Day. Next, I'm going to go on to Labor Day, a holiday that recognizes the working people of America. And there's one episode in particular about working people that is especially relevant even today. That kind of proves how um, far ahead of its time the Twilight Zone is, uh, or was. It was a show. It was an episode called "The Brain Center at Whipple's," and it stars Richard Deacon, who was known for playing Mel Cooley on the Dick Van Dyke Show, and he plays the boss at a factory where he wants to replace so many workers with machines, which is something that is especially relevant today as we see that happening a lot. But in the end, some of his actions come back to bite him, and it's especially relevant to show how essential working people are, and all the good jobs that people do to help keep society running. So as we go into October is Halloween. So obviously, Twilight Zone and Halloween are very interconnected. Like even my shirt here is like a lot of Halloween type stuff, like an eyeball and just creepy images and the dark and black and white. So it's so I was trying to look for what episode really captures the Halloween spirit, and the one I came up with would be the Howling Man. And it was about a man who stumbles upon this large castle where all these monks live, and he needs a place to stay. It's raining out, and he's tired, and just wants a place to stay over the night. And they initially are hesitant, but they eventually reluctantly let him stay. And he keeps hearing this howling noise, and when he inquires about it, the monks tell him that they have captured Satan himself and want locked up in this room. And I'm not going to tell you what happens, but it certainly is very Halloween esque, kind of with like the large castle and the monks and the howling. It kind of reminds you of a Universal monster movies like Frankenstein or Dracula or the Wolfman. So it was definitely the most Halloween type episode. So into November is Veterans Day, which was a holiday we just recognized the other day, November 11th. And where this holiday is the opposite of Memorial Day, where this is about soldiers who do come back. So I was kind of, wondering what episode I would pick for this. And I went with actually the very first episode of the show. It was a show called, an episode called Where Is Everybody? And it involves a man who's in the Air Force who kind of stumbles upon this town, very similar to the one I talked about the New Year's episode, Stop Over in a Quiet Town, where he's in this very strange town and where things don't seem um, quite all there. And he's all alone walking through this town. So it kind of, here we have, someone who's in the military who's, you know, come back per se, but he's all alone and can kind of highlight, how, when they do come back, we should make veterans feel that they are not alone. So not, maybe it was kind of a metaphor he was Rod Serling was working with, but I, I don't know, or maybe it was just I thought it was an interesting theme, but certainly a lot can be deciphered from this one. So on to Thanksgiving, and Thanksgiving is an interesting one because we learn about what how to be thankful and about family. And there was one episode that is a little bleaker for Thanksgiving, but it's very interesting and reflects upon family and being thankful. And it was also called The Shelter. And here you have this family who has built themselves a bomb shelter in their home, and they have a and they and then when they hear about a potential nuclear attack, they go down to the they go down to the shelter, and their neighbors want to get into it, but the father is very adamant about not, that he has only built this for his wife and his son, and wanting to stay together, and they simply do not have the resources to accommodate everyone. in there. So, and it leads to fighting and arguments, So, but it's a definitely like bleaker type episode. It's one of the few episodes that don't really involve any science fiction to them, but definitely shows a lot about how being thankful for what you have, and being prepared, and uh, having a sense of community um, that Thanksgiving reflects there. So now finally onto Christmas, and there was one especially Christmas episode that takes place directly on the holiday. It was called Night of the Meek, and it stars Art Carney, who plays a department store Santa who's a drunk and gets fired when he's kind of reeking of booze and acting erratically while the kids are on his lap, and then he goes drowns his sorrows at the bar until he finds an actual uh, sack full of presents that he starts distributing. So it's definitely probably the most relevant episode to a particular holiday itself. So it was it's a heartwarming story too, um, but a very entertaining one. So you may notice that really I didn't include every holiday. There was one I seemed to skip over. That would be the 4th of July, because I really struggled to find a 4th of July themed episode. Um, because the 4th of July is about patriotism and that, and no, and I'm not calling Rod Serling unpatriotic, but there weren't really any episodes that I could directly, you know, tie to 4th of July. And as I mentioned, certainly war and military themed episodes were very common throughout the show, but they weren't the most patriotic. They didn't really, they weren't exactly feel good episodes. Um, and Rod Serling, who himself was a World War II veteran, who probably, after seeing the horrors of war and experiencing it firsthand, realized that, war is not inherently a good thing. It's not, and really reflected that in his shows. As like episodes like I mentioned before, like the Purple Testament. Um, there's another episode called "The Quality of Mercy," where you see where a soldier gets to um, his see the war through his enemy's eyes. There's another episode called "The Encounter," starring George Takei, where he's a Japanese man who is who is in this very tense argument with this kind of this racist man who's against him, because of World War II, and it was a very intense episode. So there's not a lot of rah rah patriotism to the show. So Rod Serling was definitely ahead of ahead of his time, and definitely reflected that pretty progressive stuff in there. So that is about it. Episode for every holiday there. So let me know what you think, if you're a fan of the Twilight Zone, and what you think about the episodes I chose. And like, comment, subscribe, all the works. And until next time, take it easy.